Hello and welcome to Deconstructing the Construct, episode 46. Sorry, I did actually record something on Monday, but on putting it together, I realised there were so many things I forgot to say that there would have just been too many PSs. So I haven't gotten around to doing it again until now, which is Thursday, the 12th. So I want to go back to Monday the 2nd, Monday a week ago. As I've talked about before, we've been measuring the dome, the energetic dome, because it was noticed that it actually started to drop. And on Monday, it was also thinning and compressing. On Monday, over the course of a few hours, as we were going through several processes, it started to speed up. And it only took a couple of hours for it to hit sea level, which was really interesting. While that was happening, there were things like difficulty breathing, head compression, sinus compression, headache. A few things were going on over those few hours. And once it actually hit sea level, all of that alleviated. And for some, they felt very much a sense of expansion in their chest. And that 3ZB is now everywhere in the environment, everywhere. And you can work with it and use it, consciously breathe it in, you know, like we were doing with the 100% unlock with the water way back. Just intend the 3ZB, the blue energy. And it's alleviating a lot of the physical discomfort. This was followed by a blue energetic wave. And we actually did receive a message from home saying we're sending that now. This is also in regards to the UVC that I spoke about. So the UVC is twofold. It is destructive to the old construct and programs. It's burning the files. It's erasing the mechanisms of the old programs and the old construct that are still operating. But as it's working with the 3ZB, for what I call heart source beings, it's reactivating a lot of our inherent abilities. The Schumann resonance, what we've been seeing with the Schumann, the big whomps, is the Schumann reacting to these waves coming in, the resetting and rewriting of programs. Our shell, meaning this, is one of the last layers being addressed. And there's a kind of photosynthesis happening within us. Like the dome, the shell is becoming thinner in order for us to break out of it, which I'll get to. The light is converting to 3ZB, adapting itself to the shell body. It's a preliminary process, and it's in conjunction with the radiation in the UVC. It's creating a combined chemical activation, stimulating our DNA. The one thing that's being focused on is our eyes. The process has been going on for a while with the iris itself, and it's now moving through the entire visual cortex. The reason for this is because once we see, we believe. That when we first came in here, very much like that movie, They Live, when he puts the glasses on, we had the ability to see what was heart sourced, what was programmed, what was background, what was not. And that ability was shut down as the virus continued to spread. Which is partly why when things started to go a little bit skewy, we weren't all that concerned because we could see what was what. But it got to a point where we couldn't tell who was who anymore. And that's when things really went pear-shaped. Some of you might even actually get a physical sensation of lenses, different lenses. Depending on your environment, which my feeling on this is that it's not just physical environment, but energetic environment. We used to have the ability to activate a certain lens in our eyes, which would then act as a trigger for every cell in the body to adapt to that environment. These are the things that are starting to come back as we are getting closer and closer to whatever's going to go down, to help us see what's happening, so that once we see it, we believe it. Messages both from home and from internal is that everyone is integral to this shift. Everyone is important. Everybody is playing their part, whether you know it or not. For everyone who is aware of their element, fire, air, earth, water, those of you who are earth, the role you've been playing up until now has been very grounding, bringing it down and grounding these energies. That apparently has just flipped, and you've gone from gravity to levity. So when you're working in the energetic, things may start to feel a little bit unfamiliar. Like, this is not how things normally feel. I normally feel very solid, very heavy, like a rock, these sort of things. And now it'll start to feel lighter because you've actually reversed what you're doing. Water elements are the conduits, are acting as conduits for 3ZB. Air are carriers. Fire is working with the UVC to fry and burn out the programs. Most of us have a combination of these elements to some degree. Adjusting to this visual cortex vision can stimulate some sensitivity to the photosensitivity or migraines, sinus pressure, that sort of thing. So again, working with 3ZB can help. The warning, which didn't come from home, came from within the group, was working with water and 3ZB is beneficial, but working with earth and ground and trying to ground will actually make the process harder. For those of you who are still earthing and grounding, you may find that quite jarring. So, and physically get into water whenever possible. You'll know when this is working, and I've already heard reports from people who don't know what I'm saying, that it'll show up in the form of waking dreams. Like when you're awake, visuals, overlays that I've talked about before. We talked a lot about overlays happening last year. Seeing sparks, seeing lines and grids, seeing things in the air that you weren't seeing before in the environment itself. The other thing about the eyes is, like I said, we'll be able to see the difference between heart source beings and background people or bots. What's part of the program, what's part of the environment, the background, and what's here with life force. To the point where it will even show up in the written word. So the written word that's been written by a heart source being will have an energy and even a light. It'll light up to you. If it's been written by a program or a bot, it'll look dead and static. This is what we've been told to expect. And this is by people who are actually getting these downloads. Okay, these aren't home messages. The other download, which was quite intense, is from someone who is very much experiencing this in a physical way and has been spending days kind of in an almost semi-conscious, in and out, often in that sweet spot space. And she saw how when the virus first came in, how our essence, our core essence was sort of pushed down, all the way down and locked into the base of the spine, which of course makes references to the Kundalini. And it had a lock put on it. And it is starting to work its way back up, be activated. Just a little, we don't need the whole kabooey. We just need certain pieces of it activated, those that will be associated with the vision, for example. So lower back pain or sensitivity down in the base, or even feeling energetically, some activity down there could be happening for some. On Saturday, there was some communication with home, Saturday the 7th, which involved a message that the clock has stopped for them, for the proverbial day, and that the 6th wave is now finished. And that we are now in a holding pattern from between here and the 31st of July. We just wait. But the whole 6th wave has been, is home and been processed. This 6th wave was all about the realm that is physically, I guess, for want of a better word, closest to us. We were told that this realm is where all of the creatures, the beings that we know of in fairy tales and legends and stories, is where they're from. That because they are the closest realm to us, there has been communication between the two. People communicate, whether consciously or unconsciously, in dream time and insight and download. We've been able to communicate and share stories, which is why we have the stories that we have. That the South Pole is a physical portal to all realms, including that one. And people from here have gone to this other realm, which I'm calling the 6th realm, just because I don't know what else to call it. That the clock has stopped and the universe is now open. I asked about a lot of the craziness that we're seeing, these random acts of violence, cognitive dissonance, anger, explosive behavior, and was told it's a combination of the bots glitching and the heart source beings purging the last of the virus that's in there. I've been saying for quite some time, since probably the end of 2016, that this feels like it's going to be an individual inside job. And as time's gone on, that message has just gotten stronger and stronger. I've said we seem to be seeing all narratives playing out. Now, you don't have to look far on YouTube to find all of the anomalies in the sky. And everyone's seeing them, but we've all got different stories as to what the cause is and what it's leading to. Whether it's Nibiru, the Kachinas, the rapture, pole shift, the event, ascension, whatever. Everyone is seeing the evidence for their narrative playing out. And I still believe that we are actually going to see all of them play out simultaneously. The closer we get, it feels like we are creating and living our own personal story, our own personal narrative that we've created for our exit. And the truth is, we're all being completely supported in doing so. Everyone is being supported here. I asked why we were the 7th and last wave and timeline, and I was told because this is where it all started. The first shall be last and the last shall be first. that the virus started here and like a cancer spread throughout the universe to every being and in every realm. This is where it all began. And the cleanup has happened in reverse, going back to the source of it all. That the heart source beings in here were used to entrap, harness, and to power the dragons, the realm creators, for darkness. But the dragons are all better now, I was told. Those who went home in the sixth wave, again, they all experienced it individually. For some, it was a flash and they were home. Others left in fear and pain because all they saw was death and destruction. And I have a feeling we're going to do something similar. It's up to you how you go ahead and experience what's about to play out. I was told that support is the fabric of the universe. The virus was need. That in all of creation, there was never any lack until here. And it's because, which is another way of saying what we said at what the message we were given earlier about freedom versus free will. That there are three levels to the soul, to the maturing of a soul. One is understanding love, two, understanding support, and then three, understanding and mastering creation. Earth was created, skipping those three steps and going straight to creation with free will, without having to understand love and support. Okay, when Lulu first made contact, she said there was not 7.whatever billion people on the planet. She said it was a lie. There was only 1 point something, I can't remember the exact figure. And that only 11% of those were actually heart source tumors. Since we had the information around the eyes and we've been practicing and playing with that, every time we go out into public, where there's a crowd, setting the intent to see who's who and what's what. And we've been able to come up with a few figures which match, actually. What we've come up with is there's only about 112 million heart source beings here, which I know is mind-boggling. Which brings me actually to the number 7, which also came up for us last week. It's just a theory that we're playing with, but starting to see and feel confirmations for it of one original and 6 copies. Everyone's got doppelgangers. We all get told we look identical to somebody else that someone knows. And I have heard from time to time that we've got 6 or 7 doppelgangers. Back in 2011, I had a very, well, it was a profound experience for me that set me off down many rabbit holes, where I saw the moon as an artificial entity. I saw bases on the moon, one of which was what I was calling the rinse and repeat center, which was literally where we were lured by the false white light, follow the light, follow the tunnel. Here's your dead relative, here's your dead pet. Into going into, we were recycled, copied, and put back in. I also saw that facility blown up, and it was blown up by people here feeding an intense love frequency into a network, a grid system that was being broadcast from the moon all over the planet. And it went straight back to the base and blew it up. That was in 2011. Since then, my observation is we've seen a lot more orbs. From 2011 onwards, the number of orbs just was getting ridiculous. Because even though we weren't being recycled, we still couldn't get out. So I think people were hanging around in the form of orbs. Last year, there was some energetic work that was done. And then from that point on, the orbs, a lot of the orbs just sort of disappeared, because I think the ability for those beings to leave, doors were opened. So without that ability to continue replicating, photocopying us, it's my understanding that the population has actually dropped even more. Because when you look at all the statistics that all the different groups put out, they actually don't match up. So anyway, we may only be looking at 111 million. But you can practice. Practice looking at, a white wall and seeing what comes up. Practice just focusing on an object and trying to see through it, to see what's behind it. Set the intent to see the difference, to feel or see the heart source beings in a crowd. See what happens. The other thing is closure. I'm hearing one story after another about something happening now where there's been a block to that happening for quite some time. People feeling like, it's like lots of reconciliations, lots of goodbyes that you don't realise are goodbyes until after the event. That sense of this will be the last time you speak to this person. Just lots of resolution and closure happening. Okay, in references to our shells getting thinner, and also the download about our essence being suppressed down into the base. And many people's feelings, not just mine, but many people for a long time have felt that the sun was going to play an important, integral role in whatever's going to go down. Put those three together along with many people's visions and the message of the flash. This will be the greatest flash the universe has ever seen. And with the confirmation that the volcanic activity and the planet literally seems to be heating up from the inside out. The vision that has sort of evolved is a 3-step process that I'm seeing and sensing. Okay, so, and it's initial stages of that. We'll see. The volcanoes set off a chain reaction. That creates some kind of magnetic pulse. The sun reacts to that in return with a huge flash from the sun. But it's us, because we are the event. And part of this essence that is us, and many people have seen them, is these crystals. That pulse that comes from the sun, the crystals that are in us respond, and they are, and therefore we are what goes flash. The greatest flash the universe has ever seen. That's my current theory. Okay, one last thing, just on the date of the 31st of July. Lilu knows that our communications are monitored, that we're being listened to. She doesn't say anything. She's not okay for them to hear. And she's proven herself to me anyway, time and again, to be pretty cluey about what she says when she says it, in hindsight. So not only, what I'm saying is she's probably got an agenda, a reason for giving that out. And yes, it would be for us. Yes, it would be so we can feel into it. Yes, it would be because if we can make it happen. Okay. But it's also because she wanted them to know. And it probably relates to the TikTok, the clock has stopped, time is up message. So, thank you. Bye for now.